In early January of 1961, just days before taking the oath of office, President-elect John F. Kennedy faced a dilemma he never expected. The election was over, the victory secured, but a decision loomed that would quietly expose the limits of power, loyalty, and courage. The Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop had played a critical role in Kennedy's rise. They weren't just entertainers, they were cultural weapons. They raised money, energized crowds, and gave Kennedy something no other candidate had ever possessed: celebrity credibility. They made him modern, they made him magnetic, they made him cool. Kennedy owed them. But now his advisors delivered a message that made the future president uneasy. "Mr. President, Sammy Davis Jr. cannot attend the inauguration." Kennedy asked why. The answer was blunt. Sammy had recently married Mae Britt, a white actress. In 1960, interracial marriage was still illegal in parts of the United States and fiercely condemned elsewhere. Southern Democrats, whose support Kennedy desperately needed, would erupt. Conservative media would seize the story. The administration could be weakened before it even began. Kennedy understood the political math, and so, without public explanation, Sammy Davis Jr. was quietly removed from the guest list. Frank Sinatra was furious, but ultimately relented. Peter Lawford, tied to Kennedy by family, stayed silent. Joey Bishop accepted the decision. But Dean did not. To grasp the weight of Dean's response, you must understand how deeply intertwined the Rat Pack and Kennedy truly were. During the 1960 campaign, Kennedy was young, Catholic, and facing skepticism. Richard Nixon was experienced, polished, and formidable. Kennedy needed cultural momentum, something intangible but powerful. Frank Sinatra provided it. Frank threw his full support behind Kennedy. He organized fundraisers, headlined rallies, and brought Hollywood glamour directly into politics. Soon, the entire Rat Pack became unofficial ambassadors for the campaign. They performed at the Democratic National Convention. They filled theaters with donors. They reshaped the image of what a presidential candidate could be. When Kennedy won, the inauguration was meant to be the final act of that partnership. Frank planned a lavish gala in Washington, D.C., a celebration of victory, power, and influence. Ella Fitzgerald, Nat King Cole, Hollywood royalty everywhere. It was meant to be unforgettable. But Sammy Davis Jr. was missing. Sammy was not just a performer. He was a once-in-a-generation talent, singer, dancer, actor, comedian, and he had stood shoulder to shoulder with Kennedy throughout the campaign. Yet now, because of who he loved, he had become too dangerous to be seen. Frank argued, he pleaded, he reminded Kennedy's team of everything Sammy had done. The response never changed. Politics comes first. Frank faced a choice: stand with his friend or stand with the presidency he helped create. He chose the presidency. Sammy accepted the decision publicly, but privately, it cut deeply. He had believed the Rat Pack was immune to the rules of race, that loyalty transcended color. He was wrong. When Dean Martin received his invitation, he immediately noticed what wasn't there: Sammy's name. Dean picked up the phone. "Did you get your invitation?" he asked Sammy. "No," came the quiet reply. "They don't want me there." Dean understood instantly. Frank faced a choice: stand with his friend or stand with the presidency he helped create. He chose the presidency. Sammy accepted the decision publicly, but privately, it cut deeply. He had believed the Rat Pack was immune to the rules of race, that loyalty transcended color. He was wrong. When Dean Martin received his invitation, he immediately noticed what wasn't there: Sammy's name. Dean picked up the phone. "Did you get your invitation?" he asked Sammy. "No," came the quiet reply. "They don't want me there." Dean understood everything instantly. He called Frank. "You're really going without him?" Dean asked. Frank tried to explain the South, the politics, the consequences. Dean wasn't interested. "I don't care about consequences," he said. "I care about my friend." Frank warned him. This was history. This was power. This was the presidency. Dean's response was simple. "If Sammy isn't welcome, neither am I." He declined the invitation. No press release, no speech, just a quiet refusal. The reaction stunned Washington and Hollywood alike. No one turned down a presidential inauguration. No one, except Dean Martin. When Dean told Sammy what he'd done, Sammy was overwhelmed. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "Yes, I did," Dean replied. "You're my friend." That moment stayed with Sammy for the rest of his life. The gala went on without Dean. Kennedy was sworn in without Sammy. History moved forward, but something had shifted. Kennedy's relationship with the Rat Pack cooled. Frank continued to support him, but the warmth was gone. A line had been drawn, power on one side, principle on the other. Dean Martin's image changed forever. Behind the effortless charm and laid-back humor was a man who knew exactly where he stood when it mattered. Years later, as Sammy lay dying, Dean visited him. They spoke of old times, laughter, and loss. Sammy thanked Dean, finally, for 1961. Frank faced a choice: stand with his friend, or stand with the presidency he helped create. He chose the presidency.
Sammy accepted the decision publicly, but privately, it cut deeply. He had believed the Rat Pack was immune to the rules of race, that loyalty transcended color. He was wrong. When Dean Martin received his invitation, he immediately noticed what wasn't there: Sammy's name. Dean picked up the phone. "Did you get your invitation?" he asked Sammy. "No," came the quiet reply. "They don't want me there." Dean understood everything instantly. He called Frank. "You're really going without him?" Dean asked. Frank tried to explain the South, the politics, the consequences. Dean wasn't interested. "I don't care about consequences," he said. "I care about my friend." Frank warned him. This was history. This was power. This was the presidency. Dean's response was simple. "If Sammy isn't welcome, neither am I." He declined the invitation. No press release, no speech, just a quiet refusal. The reaction stunned Washington and Hollywood alike. No one turned down a presidential inauguration. No one, except Dean Martin. When Dean told Sammy what he'd done, Sammy was overwhelmed. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "Yes, I did," Dean replied. "You're my friend." That moment stayed with Sammy for the rest of his life. The gala went on without Dean. Kennedy was sworn in without Sammy. History moved forward, but something had shifted. Kennedy's relationship with the Rat Pack cooled. Frank continued to support him, but the warmth was gone. A line had been drawn, power on one side, principle on the other. Dean Martin's image changed forever.
Behind the effortless charm and laid-back humor was a man who knew exactly where he stood when it mattered. Years later, as Sammy lay dying, Dean visited him. They spoke of old times, laughter, and loss. Sammy thanked Dean, finally, for 1961. Dean brushed it off. "There was nothing to thank," he said. "You were always enough." When Sammy Davis Jr. passed away, Dean Martin served as a pallbearer. Someone later asked if he regretted missing one of the most historic moments in American history. Dean didn't hesitate. "No," he said, "history happens with or without you. Friendship doesn't." Dean Martin never changed laws, he never gave speeches, he never marched, but he made a choice. Quiet, costly, and principled. And sometimes that's what real courage looks like. Because presidents fade, power disappears, but integrity endures. And that, more than applause, is what truly defines a legacy.